Alright, yeah! Thank God for fantasy football. I'm Buster Brown, and the show, it's called Redemption Rehab. And if you tuned in today, it's for one reason. It's to start winning championships in fantasy football. Here we are on our website, fantasyfootballredemptionrehab.com. When you get a chance, check it out. Today, we're here talking about our weekly waiver wire report, where we help you find impact players week in and week out to help you win a championship in 2020. So buckle up, get out your popcorn, and let's head over to the chalkboard
and check out the facts.
Okay, here we are checking out the waiver wire report for week 7 of the NFL season. And we always start out with our quick hits. If you need somebody at quarterback this week, make sure you take a look at Case Keenum for the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield had a rough game against Pittsburgh, really banged up his ribs from the week before, and Pittsburgh really put a hurting on him. Wouldn't be surprised if Case Keenum had a chance to go up against Cincinnati's weak secondary. So keep an eye out for information about Baker Mayfield. If you need yourself a good kicker this week, even though some leagues don't have him anymore, we suggest Brandon Mcmanus of the Denver Broncos. He had 5 field goals while playing in New England. They're having trouble scoring down over in Denver. Drew Lock's back. We like Drew Lock. He might be a quarterback on your waiver wire you should consider because he'll only get better. But Brandon Mcmanus kicked 5 field goals, 2 of them over 50 yards, and scored 20 points in fantasy football last week. And if you need yourself a good defense, we suggest anybody playing the New York Jets. The Jets are getting rid of a lot of their good players. I'm sure Breechard Perriman, who we're going to recommend later, is on that list. If you get a chance to pick him up this week, you might. But we're suggesting the Buffalo Bills on defense this week if they're on your waiver wire, simply because they're playing the Jets. And we also like the Kansas City Chiefs going up to Denver to play against Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. When we come back, we're going to be taking a look on ESPN at some of the box scores for tight ends. Okay, last week we told you Rob Gronkowski was a guy you should get on your team. We've been telling you for 2 weeks. Well, he went out last week, put up 5 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. You should have picked him up, and if you did, he'd have got you close to 20 points. Another guy we recommended last week was Trey Burton. What did he do? He went out and had 4 catches for over 50 yards, scored a touchdown, and rushed for a touchdown. He would have got you 20 points. And we've been telling you for weeks now that you should keep an eye on this guy, Darren Fells of the Houston Texans. He had 6 catches for 85 yards, a touchdown on 7 targets. Look, Jordan Akins and Darren Fells split time at tight end because they like to run 2 tight ends set in what they call a 12 personnel package to help them run the ball and throw to their tight ends. Well, Darren Fells is doing well because Jordan Akins is out. If he's on your waiver wire, go pick him up. He's going to play really well. They're playing in Green Bay. They're going to be in behind. And if Jordan Akins is out again this week, look for Darren Fells to put up another big game. And we didn't get a chance to mention this guy very much. We did earlier in the year, and his name is Anthony Fercer. He had 8 receptions for 113 yards on 9 targets. The guy you really want is Jonnu Smith, but he's a little bit banged up at tight end for the Tennessee Titans. But when he gets healthy, he's probably the guy that's going to be catching the ball a lot at tight end. But last week, Anthony Fercer was the guy that was catching all the balls. We really like him if Jonnu Smith isn't healthy next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Keep an eye out for this guy. We're going to mention him later when we talk about wide receivers. Adam Humphries, he had 6 catches for 64 yards and 1 touchdown on 6 targets. He was one of the COVID-19 people in Tennessee for the last couple weeks, but he's healthy, he's back, and he's hungry, so make sure you keep an eye out for that guy. If you want some deep sleepers at tight end, I got to talk about Richard Rodgers over at the Philadelphia Eagles. They play the New York Giants on Thursday night. Everybody's like, who's this guy? He used to play for Green Bay. His name's Rodgers. And the thing that I like about him is unfortunately Zach Ertz is hurt and Dallas Goedert's hurt. but Carson Wentz likes to throw to the tight end, and I think that Rodgers has a chance to get in the end zone on Thursday night, so keep an eye out for him. A couple deep sleepers I want to mention that might be on your waiver probably are Irv Smith over at Minnesota, had 4 catches for 50 yards. And another guy who's had touchdowns in the last 2 weeks is Adam Sheehan. He used to play for the Chicago Bears. Now he's down in Miami and he's fighting for playing time with Mike Gesicki. But for the last 2 weeks, Ryan Fitzpatrick has thrown him a touchdown pass. When we come back, we're going to be checking out running backs for week 7 of the NFL season. Last week, in week 6 of the weekly waiver wire report, we told you about a running back for the Washington football team called J.D. Mccassig. He went out and scored another double-digit performance. So if you get a chance, make sure you look him up on your waiver wire. And we also told you that Rashad Penny is coming back for the Seattle Seahawks. He was on the PUP list, so he couldn't play in the first 6 games. But now it's week 7, so I look for him to be activated in the next week or 2, so he's worth a stash on your bench. There are some injuries in the NFL we got to talk about because you got to keep an eye out for those things on your waiver wire. Joe Mixon got hurt in his game this week, so he might not play. You need to look on your waiver wire to see if Giovanni Bernard's available or this guy, Samaje Perine. He's probably going to get some playing time. So if you get a chance, go check out if one of those 2 guys are available on your waiver wire. Another guy that got hurt is Miles Sanders. He plays this Thursday against the New York Giants. His handcuffed is Boston Scott and Corey Clement. One of those 2 might be on your waiver wire. I'm not sure how high I am on either one of them, but they're going to get a chance to play a lot on Thursday. And another situation I'd keep an eye out for is this running back situation in San Francisco. Tevin Coleman's on IR. Raheem Mostert got hurt after he came back from his stint on the IR. He's hurt again. So the guys you're looking for are Jerick McKinney, who will be the starting running back, and keep an eye out for a guy who's right now banged up, but his name is Jeff Wilson, and he might get some playing time this week, just in case you're in a pinch at running back. But a couple guys I want you to take a look at, they're going to be hot on your waiver wire, is one of them is this guy. His name is Jeremy Mcnichols. He had 5 rushes for 51 yards, and he caught some passes out of the backfield. He had 2 catches for 11 yards on 3 targets. Look, if something happens to Derrick Henry, this is the guy that's going to get a lot of playing time. And even with Derrick Henry, this guy's going to get a lot of playing time, especially if they have to play catch up against Pittsburgh this week. Let's go take a look at a guy that I think we told you about several weeks ago for the Baltimore Ravens, and his name is Gus Edwards. Okay, here we are checking out the box score for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Baltimore Ravens. We just talked about Boston Scott. As you can see here, he had 2 carries for 4 yards, and down here he had 2 catches for 5 yards. But that's not who we're talking about. We're talking about this guy, Gus Edwards. He had 14 carries for 26 yards and a touchdown. He hadn't caught any balls out of the backfield in this game, but I tell you what, he can. And they're on bye this week. If you do decide to pick up Gus Edwards, know that it's someone you're putting on your bench because Mark Ingram got banged up and J.K. Dobbins is a rookie who rookies have a tendency to hit the wall. So I'm suggesting you stash this guy on your bench for later on this season. I've got some sleepers for you. I'll tell you what, if you really want some deep sleepers, you should check out Michael Perriman for the New York Jets. This guy's a rookie, but when they let Le'Veon Bell go, this guy got some playing time. Another guy I like is A.J. Dillon for the Green Bay Packers. They play against the Houston Texans this week. I expect them. You can run the ball heavily on Houston. They're ranked like last in the NFL, so don't be surprised if A.J. Dillon gets some goal line carries. It's a deep sleeper, so be very careful with that. And another guy that might not get a ton of playing time, depends on injuries, is Keyshawn Vaughn, another rookie who plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When we come back, we're going to check out wide receivers for week 7 of the NFL season. Okay, here we are checking out wide receivers for the waiver wire report for week 7. Last week, we told you about Travis Fulgham for the Philadelphia Eagles. All he did was go out and score another touchdown. You should have went and picked him up. We told you about Chase Claypool. He went out, scored another touchdown rushing the ball. We told you about Cole Beasley. We said when he comes back from his illness, he was going to play well. He went out and scored another touchdown last week. These guys should be looked at on your waiver wire to see if they're there. But last week we also told you about the Miami Dolphins as one of our defenses we liked, and as you can see in the box score behind me, they shut out the New York Jets. They really put a hurting on them. And one of the players we noticed that we liked is finally back from injury, and it's this guy, Breechard Perriman. He had 4 receptions for 62 yards on 8 targets. I'll tell you what, I don't really want any players on the Jets, but I think they're going to trade this guy. This guy can play football. At the end of last season, this guy was the best player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the last 4 games. Go look it up. And I think if he goes to the right team, maybe a warm weather team, maybe back to Tampa Bay, I think he finds his groove and he starts putting up some big numbers. So you may want to stash Breechard Perriman on your bench. Let's go take a look at some other wide receivers we like for week 7. Okay, last week we told you about Trey Burton. As you can see right here, he had a rushing touchdown and he had a receiving touchdown. He didn't have more receptions than this guy, Marcus Johnson, who had 5 receptions for 108 yards on 8 targets. Look, this team is banged up. Indy's lost running backs, they've lost receivers, they lost tight ends. They're trying to find players to play, and they got behind against Cincinnati. So what happened was Phillip Rivers had a big game. Look up here, 371 yards with 3 touchdowns, mostly because they got behind. And when that happens, it's not going to happen a lot with the Colts, but I tell you what, they're going to have to throw the ball, and Marcus Johnson was the recipient of a lot of points because of that. Okay, here we are looking at another wide receiver we like for week 7 of the NFL season. His name is James Washington. He had 4 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets against the Cleveland Browns. The reason this guy's getting some playing time is because Deontay Johnson's hurt. He's got like a toe injury, he's got a back injury, so they decided to hold him out till he's 100% healthy. I don't know if he'll be back this week, but as long as he's out, this is the guy that's going to get a lot of playing time. Let me show you one other guy we really like for week 7. Okay, here we are looking at the box score between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. Earlier we told you how much we liked Cole Beasley. You can see here he had 4 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets. But a guy we really like this week because of the injury to Sammy Watkins is Demarcus Robinson. He had 5 catches for 69 yards on 6 targets. Hey, this guy put up some points. Seems like if Sammy Watkins is out, it's either Mecole Hardman or this guy, Demarcus Robinson, who picks up the slack. So you may want to consider either one of those 2 guys at wide receiver against the Denver Broncos in week 7 of the NFL. Well, there you have it. We gave you all the impact players we promised to help you fill out your rosters this week in fantasy football. I'm Buster Brown. The show is called Redemption Rehab. Good luck.